Now, honestly, Chicago sports in general, especially at the moment, kind of in disastrous shape.
It's Connor Bedard and like nothing else.
Hello, I'm Colin.
And I'm Charlie.
And welcome to the C&C Talks podcast. It's our season premiere of Season 3.
Yeah, we're back for yet another year. Just a reminder, we release episodes every week and we talk about politics, world events, and sports. It is currently Wednesday, January 3rd, 2023 at about 8:30 p.m. Pacific time.
Yeah, and we're back better than ever, of course, coming up at the end of this episode. We'll give our 2024 predictions for what is sure to be a wild year. But Charlie, before we get into our many topics on this show, let's give a quick preview of what's coming up here on Season 3.
Yeah, we are going to release approximately 40 episodes of our main podcast from January 4th, which if we can get that out tomorrow, it'll either be tomorrow, it'll either be the 4th or the 5th, through December 18th. We'll have analysis of the previous week's news and sports, episodes out every week. Of course, you'll notice that 40 episodes, 52 weeks, we will every so often have a week that we do not upload due to various reasons, as possibly of us possibly not being available. Usually on Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Pacific time, 8 a.m. Pacific time. Available anywhere you get your podcasts: YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. And you can find them on our website, cctalks.com. We also have several bonus episodes throughout the season, such as the Olympics, March Madness, Super Bowl, and possibly the World Series. And more details will be coming out on some other things that we're working on in the background as we continue to work on them. We also have After Hours episodes, which will provide deep dives and background information on things we discussed in the show. It is very much history related. They're 1 minute or less wherever necessary, exclusively on YouTube. You can find them under our Shorts tab. And C&C 5 is back.
Maybe. At least occasionally.
They're coming back again, occasionally, exclusively on YouTube. They're 5-minute recaps of big stories in the news that we wanted to go in depth on, that we didn't necessarily possibly have time for them in our regular episodes. And as we've continued to do this podcast, we've had less and less bloopers, so we are officially ending that section of the show that we would release every few months. First it was every month, then it was every 3 months, and now we haven't uploaded one of those in nearly, I think, almost a year, in fact. But we will have clips of our episodes on YouTube, which will feature the top moments of our podcast, including the top stories from both politics and sports throughout the week after that episode is posted. And with that, let's get right into politics. And wow, we took like 2 weeks off, and there is a lot to talk about.
So I'm actually really mad about this first story because it happened. I believe we recorded our season 2 finale, and then it happened like a couple hours after we recorded that, but before the episode was published. So we had to wait a couple weeks to discuss it, but we're here to discuss it now, and that is that in Colorado, the Colorado Supreme Court ruled that Trump would be disqualified from their primary ballot for violating the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment states that if you are, among many other things, that if you are engaged in insurrection, that you cannot serve in elected office. There was a fight for a while on this. The lower court ruled yes, he did commit insurrection, but no, this didn't apply to the presidency because for some reason they ruled that the presidency wasn't considered an office of the United States. But
hang on.
Yeah, that does seem hard to believe, doesn't it, Charlie?
How's that supposed to work?
I don't know. I mean, in my opinion, it's pretty clear that the presidency is an office under the United States, but then the Colorado Supreme Court seemed to agree with my ruling. He was kicked off the primary ballot there. The Maine Secretary of State took that ruling and applied it to the state of Maine. So now Trump off primary ballots right now in 2 different states. Let's remember the 14th Amendment. This was in the wake of the Civil War, this particular section of the 14th Amendment was used essentially to disqualify members of the Confederacy from serving in Congress. That was the original point of this amendment now being used on Trump. Now, Charlie, the question is this going to hold up? Because it seems really hard to believe that this does not go to the Supreme Court. Now, it's pretty clear that Trump committed insurrection, but there's a couple things that the Supreme Court would have to rule on. First, obviously, the issue, does his office or the presidency count? I think it does. We'll see what the Supreme Court does, especially with someone like Clarence Thomas on it, where his wife participated in the insurrection that Donald Trump is being disqualified for, and Thomas has previously refused to recuse himself. I don't see why he would next time, but I think that there is a much different argument that the Supreme Court could use, is that the 14th Amendment, or at least this section of it, using it is mostly uncharted territory. We don't really know exactly how you implement it. The Constitution doesn't give a clear path. Does a court just have to rule that he committed insurrection like what happened in Colorado? Does he have to actually be convicted of it? Right? How does that work? We don't know, because we've never really gone down this path before. So we'll see what happens, Charlie.
Yeah, truly an unprecedented time in American history. Let's get to some other Republicans. What's up with Nikki Haley and Lauren Boebert, Colin?
So let's start with Nikki Haley, right? Running for president of the United States, and she was in New Hampshire a couple weeks ago. New Hampshire, the first primary. Iowa is beforehand in the Republicans, but it's a caucus. So first primary state. Speaking of the Iowa caucuses, they're coming up in just over a week. We're going to get another debate next week in Iowa. It looks like Haley and DeSantis will be the only members or only people competing in that debate. But yeah, Haley was asked a really easy question, a softball question. What is the cause of the Civil War? Charlie, a really easy question. The correct answer is obviously slavery. Slavery is what caused the Civil War. Is that what she answered?
No, it wasn't.
No, she did not. She said it was about states' rights. She said, what do you want me to say about slavery? Which is just an all-time thing that you do not want to be saying. But I think that this brings up a broader point, which is that this speaks to the Republican base. They don't want to hear that slavery is the cause of the Civil War. Haley is smart, and Haley knows what the cause of the Civil War is. It was slavery. Just like she knows that Confederates were not friends of the United States, but she still says that we have to keep Confederate monuments and the Confederate flag because it honors our heritage, right? She knows all of this, but she has to appeal to the base. But it says a lot about the base when the base is not willing to acknowledge that that's the cause of the Civil War. The Republican base is full of white nationalists, Charlie. I mean, there's no other way to put it, and Haley knows that, which is why she would make a comment like this that she very well knows is not true.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's really just gaining any ground you can get. It doesn't really matter how bad you look. If you can get those people to vote for you, that's what you'll take. So,
but the thing is, she still can't, because she's running in like a 2010 era Republican Party, a pre-Trump Republican Party, if you will. Trump, I have every reason to believe, will absolutely mop the floor with Haley in Iowa. He'll definitely mop the floor with DeSantis. We'll see. Haley maybe has an outside shot in states like New Hampshire and her home state of South Carolina, but that's about it. And Trump is probably just going to cruise to the nomination. He's not going to pick Haley as his vice presidential pick, and this is all just going to be pointless again for Nikki Haley. And she's going to leave with a legacy of, well, nothing.
All right, and then what about Boebert?
Yeah, I think that the appropriate word here is carpetbagger. Carpetbagger, for those who don't know, is to run in a place that you do not live in order to increase your chances of winning the election. It's something we've seen a lot recently. Herschel Walker lived in Texas when he was running for Senate in Georgia. Dr. Oz lived in New Jersey. He was running for Senate in Pennsylvania. The Republicans' top pick right now for the Wisconsin Senate race that's coming up in 2024 to challenge Tammy Baldwin actually lives in Southern California. So this is something that we commonly see, but it's not something that we've really seen with Lauren Boebert, because she represents Colorado's 3rd congressional district at the moment, and she's facing a pretty good challenger, Adam Frisch, a Democrat who nearly beat her in 2022. It was the closest race in the country. All odds pointed to him actually beating her in 2024. So Boebert decided, Charlie, to just pack up and leave and go to Colorado's 4th congressional district instead and run there, where she thinks she has a much better chance at winning. The incumbent is Republican Ken Buck, who's retiring, so she'll still have to make it through a crowded primary, but whoever does will almost certainly win that seat. And Charlie, it's a disgrace to the people that she represents in the 3rd congressional district. It's how we know that she does not care about them, as she's just leaving because in order to cling on to power. It's disgrace. It's wrong to the people of Colorado's 4th congressional district, who Boebert is trying to force herself onto in her quest for power. They deserve someone who will actually represent them, but I mean, this is just becoming a more and more common theme in American politics, and it's really gross to represent the people, not to gain more and more power for yourself, Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, just some of the actions that are being taken here, what would have in a earlier era, just 10, 15 years ago, been deemed unacceptable, but the normalization of what is being done here by some of these people. Think people like Trump. I mean, if I am of the belief that if Trump ran just 20 years ago, I don't think he would have won.
Yeah, I think that there's something to that. I think part of it is how much the Obama era radicalized Republicans, and Trump definitely helped with that, with spreading all of the birther issues, which was all complete BS, obviously. But I don't know because I think that Trump is responsible for a lot of the radicalization within the Republican Party, but also we have to think about how was he able to get through the Republican primary in the first place back in 2016. I think that he was speaking to what was already a lot of deeply held fears, insecurities among especially white conservative men that Trump was just able to really appeal to with his immigration stuff in particular.
Yeah, certainly. Now, let's move on to yet another disaster. Harvard's president has resigned, not over what you may be thinking, which was the disastrous congressional hearing that she had. Claudine Gay had only been in office for six months, shortest tenure in Harvard history. But what truly ended her attempt to hold on to the presidency of Harvard was even more evidence coming out for her plagiarizing some of her academic papers, which really finished the job. She has now resigned and has ended this saga that has gone on since early in December.
Yeah, I do think that she made some very, very big mistakes, but I've also heard a lot of just like essentially just calling her a diversity hire, which, I mean, let's be clear, she was not. She was qualified for the job. She made some very, very poor choices. But I think that really the problem and why she's so fiercely hated by the right is more so that she's a black woman who's at the top of America's premier university. And again, she clearly, I think that her resignation was the right decision, but she does not deserve, I don't think, quite as much blame as she has been getting.
Yeah, but do you do agree that her decision to resign was a good one?
Yes, I do believe it was a good one for a couple reasons. First of all, what she did was wrong, right? That's the first thing. But then I think the second thing is that she had lost the trust of a lot of people around her, and when you do that, whether fairly or unfairly, you kind of have to resign.
Yeah, absolutely. The U.S., over the course of 2023, has had the largest year-over-year drop in homicide rates in history. Why do you think that is, Colin?
I mean, I think that there could be a bunch of different factors. I mean, there's always fluctuation, but I think that the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, this bill to tackle gun violence that was passed back in 2022 in response to the Uvalde shooting, it did not do a lot of what's necessary, and there's still a lot of work to be done. But I think that this bill definitely helped lower homicide rates. We'll see if they continue to go down in the future. Of course, we really hope that continues to happen.
Yeah, now let's move on to world events. We couldn't even last a few days without a huge natural disaster, because of course we couldn't. Japan was hit with a 7.1 magnitude earthquake over the course of this weekend, which Japan is no stranger to earthquakes, is it?
No, they're really not. And yeah, Happy New Year to everyone in Japan. That must have been a great gift to start off the year with. Just not a good start for 2024 in that regard.
Absolutely not. And Denmark's queen has also abdicated. Colin, do you know anything about this?
Yeah, so she had spent, I believe, over 50 years on the throne. Not entirely sure why she abdicated, but she's abdicating or giving it up at some point this month. I believe her son will now take the job, which means we'll have even fewer female rulers in Europe than we previously did. Now, like the UK, the Denmark throne is much more ceremonial than anything else at this point, Charlie.
Yeah, absolutely, as it continues the trend of constitutional monarchies. Really, the only place where you'll find true monarchies at this point is in the Middle East.
Yeah, Middle East, or what do we think about Russia? I mean, it's not really a monarchy, but like
not yet.
It's. I mean, they have elections, but they're not really elections. I mean, you might as well just appoint Putin the monarch because we know he's never giving up power.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have a stat for us this week, Charlie?
Yes, I do. And that one is, we just saw the Pistons go on one of the most disastrous streaks of all time. I believe it was 28 straight games?
Yeah, 28 straight losses. Finally beat... Who did they beat? Was it the Raptors?
They beat Toronto,
yeah,
yes.
They beat Toronto, which is embarrassing for the Raptors. They almost beat the Celtics beforehand, and
after blowing a 20-point
haven't won
lead.
since. Yeah, and haven't won since.
No, and in fact, they lost to the Rockets and are about to lose to the Jazz in overtime. But
yeah,
they came incredibly close to breaking the American professional sports, major American sports loss streak record.
Yeah.
Who was it, and how many games was it?
Okay, so they've already passed the major American sports single season record. Yes.
Yes, I will tell you that this lasted over the course of 3 years.
Yes. So, they've tied, I believe, the NBA record for most losses. That was the most consecutive losses. That was over multiple seasons, and it was the 76ers. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I believe, let's see, the record's 29, unless I'm mistaken.
It is 29. Who is it?
It was from 1942 to 1945. It was I believe it was a league that was suspended because of World War II. Yes.
This franchise was certainly affected by the war. Yes.
Okay, and they do not exist anymore. I'm almost positive.
They exist. They're not in the same city as they used to be.
Oh, really? Do they still have the same name?
Same name, different city.
Huh. I don't know. They're a hockey team, right?
It's not. I don't believe that it's hockey. I can check real quick, but no, it is not hockey. The hockey record is 18.
Who are they? I have no clue now.
It's a football team. It's the 19. You have the years right. 1942 to 1945. It's the Chicago Cardinals.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because it's including the year that they merged with Pittsburgh and went 0-10.
Oh yeah, okay. So, I mean, Chicago football just isn't great. I think we've learned.
No, and we'll get to that more later.
Yeah, we will. Now, honestly, Chicago sports in general, especially at the moment, kind of in disastrous shape.
It's Connor Bedard and like nothing else.
No, I mean, at least they have Bedard, and frankly, that couldn't have gone any better for the NHL, a league we'll get to later, either in having him go to a premier market like Chicago. Hopefully, the Blackhawks can build a winning team around Bedard. We'll get to that later, but Charlie, let's move on to sports, and let's start with college football. We're going to recap the bowl games, and we'll get to the New Year's Six bowl games. But real quick, let's give as quickly as possible a recap of all of the non-New Year's Six bowl games. So
this is Colin's bowl game speed run.
Yeah, okay, we'll see how quickly I can get this done. Deep breath.
All right, I'll count for you. Go.
All right, Myrtle Beach Bowl. Ohio beat Georgia Southern. Nice 10-win season for the Bobcats, 41-21 final score. The HBCU game at the FCS level between Howard and Florida A&M. It looked like Howard was going to win. Florida A&M come back and won the Celebration Bowl 30-26. In overtime, in the New Orleans Bowl, Jacksonville State pulling off a win over the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. Jacksonville State, first bowl game ever, first win. Miami, Ohio, the MAC champ, an 11-win season, but they could not win the Cure Bowl. Appalachian State wins that. Fresno State, 37. New Mexico State, 10 as the final score. In the actually, I do not know what bowl that is, Charlie.
Don't ask me.
Yeah, no, I do not know what bowl that one is. All right, the LA Bowl. Boise State, the Mountain West Conference champion, lost 35-22 to UCLA, a big second half comeback. Independence Bowl, California, lost by 20 to Texas Tech. Cal was up 14-7 after the first, but shut out after that. The famous Toastery Bowl, this is usually played in the Bahamas, was not this year because of renovations on the stadium. Western Kentucky, they were down 28-0, came back in overtime, won this game 38-35 in impressive fashion. Frisco Bowl, UTSA 35, Marshall 17. In the Boca Raton Bowl, a huge win for USF over Syracuse, a big win over an ACC team, 45-0, a huge blowout in that one. In the Gasparilla Bowl, Georgia Tech, a big comeback over UCF, 30-17. UCF was the only new Big 12 team to make a bowl game, and they blew it. Sun Belt champs Troy lost to Duke, 17-10 in the Birmingham Bowl. Camellia Bowl, I believe is how you pronounce it. I'm not sure. Northern Illinois took down Arkansas State 21-19. Armed Forces Bowl, James Madison got to a bowl game, could not capitalize as they lost by 10 to Air Force. Famous Idaho Potato Bowl, Utah State going down in defeat to Georgia State 45-22. 68 Ventures Bowl, this game was not close. South Alabama, a 59-10 win over Eastern Michigan. Utah Northwestern, Utah losing to Northwestern 7-14. Northwestern, a huge step forward after going 1-11 last year, now 8-5 this year. That was the Las Vegas Bowl. Hawaii Bowl, Coastal Carolina 24, San Jose State 14. Quick Lane Bowl, Minnesota 30, Bowling Green 24. Minnesota only went 5-7 in the regular season, but have won 7 straight bowl games. First Responder Bowl, Texas State 45, Rice 21. Guaranteed Rate Bowl, Kansas won 49-36 over UNLV despite having 210 penalty yards, the most ever in a bowl game. DirecTV Holiday Bowl, I don't know why I said the sponsor on that one. The Holiday Bowl, Caleb Williams did not play for USC against Louisville, but they still, as a team, threw 6 touchdown passes, won 42-28 over Louisville. Oklahoma State beat Texas A&M 31-23. I don't know what that bowl was either. In the Military Bowl, Tulane went down in defeat to Virginia Tech 41-20. Duke's Mayo Bowl, this one was fun as the winning coach would get dumped with Mayo. West Virginia ended up being that winning team over North Carolina 30-10. Alamo Bowl, a huge step forward for Arizona, a 10-win season, really impressive stuff from them. They beat Oklahoma 38-24. Pop-Tarts Bowl, this was the most watched non-New Year's Six bowl game, a really, really fun one between Kansas State and NC State. An edible mascot that ended up going into a toaster and then coming out and being eaten by the winning team, which was Kansas State. Or as Anish Shroff, the play-by-play announcer on the game, said, after the game, he will be devoured, he will die, and he will be his own last meal. The Fenway Bowl at Fenway Park, AAC champ SMU lost to Boston College 23-14. Pinstripe Bowl, this is at Yankee Stadium. Rutgers beat Miami 31-24. We're getting somewhat close to the end, guys. I promise.
We
Sun
are
Bowl,
4 minutes and 40 seconds in.
All right, yeah. Sun Bowl. Notre Dame, a huge win over Oregon State, 40-8, just not even close. Gator Bowl, Clemson beating Kentucky 38-35. Clemson has still not lost since that infamous call into Dabo Swinney's radio show from Tyler from Spartanburg. Have not lost since then. Liberty Bowl, Memphis finishing off a 10-win season with a win over Iowa State. They could be a dark horse to get that group of 5 bid to the college football playoff next year. Auburn and Maryland in the Music City Bowl. Maryland getting the win, 31-13. Arizona Bowl, Wyoming beating Toledo, 16-15. ReliaQuest Bowl, no Jaden Daniels for LSU. Doesn't matter, they still beat Wisconsin, 35-31. And Tennessee beats Iowa 35-0 in the Citrus Bowl. That offense still non-existent for Iowa, though I guess Iowa fans are happy that they no longer have Brian Ferentz as their offensive coordinator after this season. Iowa 0-3 against ranked teams this year, a grand total of 0 points scored in those games. Those games were against Michigan, Tennessee, and Penn State, Charlie. Those are the non-New Year's Six Bowl games. Now let's get to the New Year's Six Bowl games, Charlie, and I imagine you want to start with the college football playoff.
Yes, your final time, 5 minutes, 57 seconds, and 75 milliseconds. Let's get to the ones
Give me a round of applause, guys. That was good.
Let's get to the ones that actually matter.
Yeah. College football playoff. Start with the Rose Bowl, Charlie.
These were 2 of the greatest games that I've ever watched. Michigan and Alabama, McCarthy and Milroe.
Yep.
Alabama up 7. Clock's winding down. Michigan does score. Alabama can't get anything done. Punts. Michigan almost muffs the punt. Get the ball back. Sends it to overtime. Michigan scores. Takes a lead. 4th and 1 from the goal line. Milroe gets obliterated in the backfield. And the game ends. Michigan going to the national championship.
Yeah, big season for Michigan. Finally able to break the streak of losses for Jim Harbaugh in bowl games. Charlie, Michigan, they played a really sloppy game. They were clearly the better team, but just a whole bunch of special teams errors in particular. They muffed a punt early in the game, almost muffed that punt at the end of the game. So just not good there, but at least they were able to come away with that win against Alabama. And in the greatest setting in college football, honestly, a Rose Bowl starting at 2 p.m. Pacific time to get that perfect sunset over the mountains, just absolutely spectacular as always.
Let's get to the other game.
You gotta love it. Yeah. I mean, I've delayed long enough from Charlie gloating.
Because of who won, I'm gonna give this one over to you because the Huskies are going to the Natty.
All right, I guess they are, and I might. No, I'm sorry. I don't have to root for them. I have to root against Michigan. Got to do that. But yes, Washington, they beat Texas in the Sugar Bowl. Another incredible game. Washington, again, clearly the better team than Texas throughout the game. Washington, they muffed a punt early in the game. And then just a series of really unfortunate events that almost ended in disaster. Washington had the ball up 6. Texas had burned its timeouts. Washington had a 3rd down, a chance to, but just by running the ball or even just kneeling on it, then they could punt it back and give Texas the ball with 10 seconds, needing to go roughly 90 yards to get a game-winning touchdown, with no timeouts. So it would have essentially been one play. Unfortunately for Washington, that's not quite what happened. They ran the ball. They got an injury, which stopped the clock. They had to punt, which would give Texas the ball with about 50 seconds left, and didn't go well because they had a fair catch interference call, gave Texas an additional 15 yards. So all of a sudden, they only had to go 65 yards to get the game-winning touchdown, and they came oh so close. Also came down to a fourth down with 1 second remaining. Could not convert. Washington wins to finish off. I do not believe that it was necessarily the greatest college football playoff semifinal game of all time, but between the two games combined, it was the greatest semifinals in the college football playoff history.
Why do I feel like we're going to have a very disappointing national championship, though?
Because that's what always happens in big situations like this. You have such high expectations just for the quality of the game, and then you're always let down. I cannot wait to watch that national championship. Two great teams. We will have an undefeated national champion this year. Sorry that you weren't invited, Florida State. We'll get to that. Believe me, we will get to that in a minute. Charlie, any other thoughts on these two semifinals?
Nope. Let's get to the final 4 New Year's bowl games, and then let's move on to the NFL.
Yeah. Start with the Cotton Bowl, Charlie. This was Ohio State and Missouri. Ohio State, oof. It was not a good look. Their offense was dysfunctional. No Kyle McCord. Their second stringer got injured. Had to use the third stringer. And 3 points, losing 14-3 to Missouri, Charlie. Just a disaster for Ryan Day, who says he doesn't want to have to use the transfer portal to find a new quarterback next year. He might have to. And should his job be in danger, Charlie?
I think so. I mean, they haven't beaten Michigan. They haven't beaten Michigan. They have not gotten over the hump. They have not made they made the playoffs last year. Didn't get it. Admittedly, that was on a long field goal that they could have made.
Yep.
But at what point are we gonna stop saying this year's their year? At what point are we saying they need to address their issues because they have some genuine problems?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the problem, the talent isn't really the problem. The problem is that Ryan Day can't coach a big game. And as a result of that, this year's graduating class at the University of Michigan will graduate never having seen their team lose to Ohio State. And conversely, Ohio State's graduating class this year will graduate never having seen their team beat Michigan. That is a problem for Ohio State. When you're the head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes, they pay you to win one game. One game. And it's against Michigan Thanksgiving weekend. And Ryan Day, for the last 3 years, has not done that. I think 2024 is a big year for him. If he cannot win that game, if he cannot get their team to the playoff, which is going to be, I think he'll get this team to the playoff. It'll be harder than ever to win a Big Ten championship with the amount of talented teams entering that conference next year. I mean, that could be it for Ryan Day at Ohio State, and it probably should be.
Yes, it should be. What were some of the other games that happened? Because I know that Florida State got annihilated, and Liberty got blown off the face of the earth by Oregon.
Yeah, we'll get to both of those games in a sec. Just first, a real quick note. Penn State also can't win a big game. They lose to Ole Miss. Ole Miss, a big season, first 11-win season, I believe, in program history. Lane Kiffin's doing a great job. Unfortunately, he also has trouble winning the biggest games, losing to Georgia and Alabama. But what's still a big step forward for that program. James Franklin, though, at Penn State. You've lost to Michigan, Ohio State, and Ole Miss. Who's the best team you beat? Iowa, maybe? It might be nearing time for some change there too. They haven't beaten a really quality team in a long time. Now, Charlie, the Orange Bowl. Georgia 63, Florida State 3. The biggest blowout in bowl game history. What are your thoughts on this game?
People who are suggesting that this is why Florida State shouldn't be in the playoffs have entirely missed the point.
Correct.
Have entirely missed the point. No one at Florida State who would have been playing in the playoffs played in this game.
Correct.
Georgia brought pretty much their regular normal roster out onto the field and essentially blew the second team to smithereens.
Because of course they did. They're Georgia.
It's impressive how many points they were able to put up, but it's not reflective on either team. in terms of actual performance, and I still think that Florida State got robbed, and they would probably be in the national championship with Washington if they were given that 4 seed.
Well, assuming Jordan Travis was healthy, which he wouldn't be. But I do think this brings up a broader point. Like you said about the opt-outs, there were just too many opt-outs to judge this game accurately. And even if this was Florida State's first team, it's still not fair. You still can't do the, oh, I told you so, because the job of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee is not to judge or predict what may or may not happen in games down the road. It is to evaluate what already happened and decide these are the 4 best teams that we have seen play so far this year. Florida State was one of those teams, but they decided to put an SEC team in either. And don't give me all the best versus most deserving, because if you actually cared about putting the 4 best teams in, you would have put Georgia in, because it's pretty clear that Georgia is at the very least, a top 3 team in the nation, and arguably is top 1. But no, games actually matter. That's why you left the Georgia Bulldogs out of the college football playoff. They lost at the conference championship to Alabama. Tough luck. It happens. No, they didn't deserve to go to the playoff either, because they had that loss. They lost to Alabama. Both teams were 12-1. Alabama was more deserving. Texas, Alabama, both 12-1. Texas more deserving because they beat Alabama. 3 undefeated teams. That's how these things should work. Now, about the opt-outs, real quick, Charlie. The bowl games, the bowl games besides the playoff are essentially just exhibition games. And why should players going to the draft play in these games? They're not being paid to play in these games. The coaches are being paid. The TV networks sure want them in the games because they're being paid. But the players have no real incentive to play what's essentially just an exhibition game. No one cares about winning the Orange Bowl unless the Orange Bowl is part of the college football playoff. Bowl games just don't matter. They just serve to give people more money that aren't the players. Stop talking about how the players are greedy when you guys just initiated conference realignment, which is making you a bunch of money at the detriment of all of the players. So don't give me any of that with opt-outs. And about, oh, well, Georgia didn't have many opt-outs, Florida State did. That just shows that Georgia has a better culture. Their guys are more committed to winning. Would you play another game for Florida State, a meaningless game, when you had already been told by the committee that it doesn't matter how many games you win, your games don't matter? I don't think I would either, Charlie. Then real quick, the Fiesta Bowl, no surprise. A big win for Oregon over Liberty, who I'm still not convinced is a real university.
Yeah, I'm starting to have my doubts. But let's get to NFL Week 17. Let's get to the fantasy standings, because things are not looking good, are they?
Not for me, they're not. I've already factored in, just to preface this, I've factored in the points for teams that have already clinched the playoffs, clinched their division, clinched the number 1 seeds. But with all of that combined, I have 126 points. Charlie has 146, 11 points away from winning. He got 11 points this week, so in week 17. So Charlie have a real chance at clinching it all in week 18 if you also factor in.
It's possible that the playoffs don't matter.
It is completely possible that the playoffs don't matter and that you're just building up even further. I think also we might need to find a way to adjust how we do things a little bit next year, because after the draft, like, everything else wasn't up to us. Like, there was nothing that we could do to, like, manage our team essentially.
We should be able to trade.
We could maybe think about doing trades. We could think about having certain games be worth more points in given weeks. We'll think of a variety of things to do with it next year, but it sure looks like Charlie's going to win this one.
Yeah, and depending on where we are by the start of next season, we might open this up to the Discord as well.
We really could. Yeah, that's a good reminder. cctalks.com/Discord to join our Discord. Charlie, let's get to the games that actually happened in NFL Week 17, and then of course we'll get into all the scenarios for Week 18 because there's so many teams still in contention.
Absolutely. So, I just first wanted to say that if your football team
I think I know where this is
Your
going.
football team has 4 wins, and 3 of them are against the Steelers, who are a fringe playoff team, the Cowboys, and the Eagles. How?
Yeah.
How
who
are
is
they
this?
doing this? This is
Wait,
the
who is
Cardinals.
this? Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that it does not make sense to me. Will they beat Seattle? We'll see. But the Eagles, Charlie, they've what? They've lost 4 of their last 5 games.
Yep.
They have shown them maybe they're not really amongst the NFL elites. Their division chances took a big hit. That's a really, really bad loss. There's no other way to slice it. Browns Jets, Charlie. The Jets are bad, and Aaron Rodgers is, well, he lied to us all again. He said he was going to come back. Well, guess what didn't happen? He did
Joe
not come
Flacco's
back
winning
this
comeback
year.
player of the year.
I bet he will. Joe, that's a whole nother conversation. Joe Flacco has been incredible, but I mean, Aaron Rodgers, like, just shut up. And of course, now accusing Jimmy Kimmel on the Pat McAfee show, the No Pushback, of being a pedophile. Just go away. Stop risking getting in a major defamation suit, as you might. Things could get really messy for Disney. I mean, seriously, just either play or go away. Stop saying that you're going to play and then not playing.
So, we'll come back to the Saturday game. We'll do that one last.
Sure.
But there's a couple of games in here that really weren't all too important. Jacksonville destroyed Carolina, setting up a battle for the South next week.
Quick point, though, Charlie. The conduct of the Panthers owner was absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah, we'll get to that as well at the end of this. Denver won a terrible game against the Chargers, but with Kansas City beating Cincinnati, the division has now been locked up, so that does not matter. Green Bay beat Minnesota, so a win puts them into the playoffs and knocks Seattle out. Speaking of Seattle, they suffered a bad loss to Steelers. Colin, you and I were actually at this game.
Don't remind me, please.
Bad game to go to, I guess.
It was a bad sports weekend for me. Let's just put it that way.
Houston beat Tennessee, and I think, if I'm not wrong, the Texans have now injured Will Levis twice this year.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. That's a wild one.
Buffalo snuck by New England, setting up another divisional battle with the Dolphins. Winner gets that division. Chicago somehow. Are they saving their season a little bit here?
Who?
The Bears.
I mean, so here's the thing. The Bears have already clinched the number 1 pick because the Panthers owe them their pick, and the Panthers are going to be the worst team in the NFL. Some of the Bears, I don't really care, but they're eliminated, I believe. So,
oh, yes, they are. They're going to go, even with the win, they'd go 8-9.
Yeah, so...
But they have a chance to screw over the Packers.
Yeah.
At Lambeau.
I mean, and help the Seahawks. Not a bad season at all for the Bears. Probably roughly what I expected at the beginning of the season, but say after 5 weeks, I would have expected a lot worse from them. Charlie, let's talk about what was supposed to be the game of the week, and it disappointed.
Oh boy, I think this season is over.
You believe that the Ravens are going to win the Super Bowl?
I think that this season might already be... Colin, real quick. Take a look at the AFC and give me a team that you genuinely think can beat Baltimore.
3 words, Charlie. Any given Sunday. Anything can happen in the NFL.
Okay. If you destroy the team that had a chance at the 1 seed by beating them 56-19.
Sure. It's bad. But also the Dolphins haven't won a meaningful game except, I guess, against the Cowboys, who we also think haven't really won a meaningful game either. So
let me real quick. I'm going to go to the playoff picture. Let's say that everything... Let's just say that everything holds, because, who cares?
Sure.
You're going to have the Ravens, the Bills or Dolphins.
Yep.
The Chiefs, two of the 3 teams from the AFC South, and the Browns.
And then the last spot is up for
along
grabs.
with maybe the Steelers, maybe the... Oh, yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
Buffalo's not going to beat them. The Dolphins can't beat them, as we already see. I don't think the Chiefs stand a chance. Jacksonville doesn't.
Mahomes' magic in the postseason is a real thing, though.
Indy is the only team that is beaten in this entire group that I think is beaten, other than the Steelers. The Steelers and Colts are the only 2 teams that have beaten the Ravens this season in the AFC, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think that I don't know if anyone can beat them in the AFC. I think that they're probably going to the Super Bowl. Can anyone beat them there? We'll see.
You're likely going to face. You're probably going to face the 49ers, and oh boy, we know what happened when that happened.
Yes, we do. Let's talk about, Charlie, the scenarios for Week 18. One seeds have already been decided: the 49ers and the Ravens, Lions and Chiefs, as well as, of course, the 49ers and Ravens. They've clinched their divisions, but 4 divisions up for grabs. Chiefs, by the way, they'll be the 3 seed in the AFC. They're locked into that. Browns locked into the 5 seed, first wild card. And Bills Dolphins, Sunday Night Football. That will decide the AFC East and the 2 seed. What do you think of this game being flexed to Sunday night, Charlie? It's right call?
Yeah, this is a great decision. Allen, Tagovailoa, battle for the division. This is going to be a great game. The winner of the AFC South will be the 4 seed. The Jaguars win. They will take the AFC South if they beat the Titans. If the Jaguars lose, then the winner of Colts-Texans takes the division. And the winner is guaranteed a playoff spot. And as for the 2 teams that as for either the 1 or 2 teams that lose, they will be thrown into a wildfire of teams that are very close together fighting for the final spot.
Yeah, I was doing some research for this segment for what are the wild card scenarios, and I decided it's just not even worth our time because everything that we say, it's so complicated that it's just going to go over all of our listeners' heads. It's absolutely ridiculous in both conferences, the number of wild card scenarios there. But in the NFC East, the Cowboys, they'll win that division with a win or an Eagles loss. If both the Cowboys lose and the Eagles win, then it's the Eagles division. The loser of that division, they'll be the 5 seed. Winner of the NFC South is the 4 seed. That fairly similar to the AFC South situation. Buccaneers win the division with a win. Saints, Falcons, that decides the division if the Buccaneers lose.
Yes, but however, the 2 teams, whoever wins, the other 2 teams likely have no chance of making the playoffs.
Yeah, maybe the Saints have an outside shot with a win, but it's unlikely.
If they win, they need both the Seahawks and Packers to lose, and I think they might need something else to happen as well.
Yeah, it's a mess it's really a mess in both conferences. Now, Charlie,
Speaking of a mess, the Detroit Pistons.
Charlie, wait. Just real quick, let's mention that the Carolina Panthers owner. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and we need to get to the Cowboys and Lions.
Yeah. First, let's start with the owner.
Okay, throwing drinks at fans is a bad idea.
Yeah.
That's going to get you fined, and it doesn't make you look like you're a very good person.
No, and also let's remember that he's had nothing but failure after failure after failure after failure as the owner of that team. So just sell the team, dude. You'll make yourself look better too. So just get out of here. There's no place in sports for that, especially from an owner. Just absurd behavior, unacceptable. Speaking of unacceptable behavior, Charlie, the referees in that Lions-Cowboys game.
Oh no. Yikes. Colin, I'm going to give this one over to you.
Okay. It's the referee's job to note who is reporting as eligible. The team can try to mix things up to try to fake out the defense. That's all fair game. And they shouldn't be discouraged from doing that because the referee may or may not be incompetent at his job. Now, it turns out he may be. By the way, this referee crew, led by Brad Allen, they've been awarded another nationally televised game. I believe this one's Steelers-Ravens on ESPN and ABC on Saturday. So just a great all-around job by everyone involved in this situation, screwing the Lions out of what would have been just an absolutely huge win for that team, and what would have been a devastating loss for the Cowboys.
Absolutely. Now, let's get to some hockey. The NHL Winter Classic was held in Seattle for the first time. Kraken playing their first outdoor game, and when it's all said and done, completing the first shutout in Winter Classic history, beating Vegas 3-0.
Yeah, great game for Kraken goalie Joey Decord. Really great environment at the game. Charlie, you were there, so I'll let you explain more of it. But it seemed like just the absolute perfect weather conditions for an outdoor hockey game.
Absolutely. The stadium itself was, I think that what they did with it was really impressive. The atmosphere was great, and it was just pretty much perfect all around. And having your hometown team win 3-0 in the first outdoor game helps quite a bit as well.
Yeah, it does over the defending champs, I might add. Charlie, has anything really surprised you just in the NHL in general this season?
I have not watched as much hockey as I did last year, so I have not really been paying attention all too much. All that I've been covering are the Kraken and Connor Bedard's rise in Chicago.
Yeah, I guess I've been pretty impressed. Boston having another big season. They're not as big
So they're
as
losing
they
to
had.
the 8th seed again.
Yeah, sure. But no, it's not as big of a season as they had last year. And then I've also been pretty impressed by Vancouver as well, currently leading the Pacific Division. Pretty good run for them. Now, Charlie, say what you want to about the Pistons and the NBA.
Oh, all right. If you have a team with Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, and Bogdan Bogdanovic, I don't understand how you lose 28 straight games. There have been some historically awful teams. There was a Cavaliers team that I think dropped 20 plus in a row. There was of course those awful Sixers teams that dropped. Again, they had the record. This is one of the most. This team has a lot of talent on it. They just haven't showed up. They've been throwing up shots that have not gone in. They've gotten annihilated in a bunch of their games. They didn't close out the game in Boston. They finally mercilessly broke the streak against Toronto, and they've immediately gone back to losing by 15 plus to Houston, and then losing in overtime now to Utah. And their schedule does not get easier, because of course it doesn't. They have the Warriors and Nuggets, and then the Kings. You get a little bit of a respite against the Spurs, Rockets, and Wizards, which they might be able to squeeze one, maybe 2 wins out of that before
The
going
Wizards
back
are really bad too.
Before going back to the Timberwolves, the Bucks again, the Hornets, the Wizards again, and then the Thunder.
Yeah.
This is not going to get much easier, is it?
No, I have a stat for you, Charlie.
Yeah, we're turning the tables now, are we?
In the year 2023, the Detroit Lions won more games than the Detroit Pistons.
That is incredibly sad.
It is incredibly sad.
Good for the Lions, but
yeah, I mean it's time that something good happened in Detroit sports. Because who knows what's going on with the Tigers too.
I am rooting so hard for a Lions-Browns Super Bowl.
We'd get a first-time champ and 2 first-time appearers. I mean, maybe the Texans also could, or the Jaguars. Like really, any of the 4 teams could theoretically that have never been to a Super Bowl could theoretically get there. Real quick. OG Anunoby traded from the Knicks to the to the Knicks from the Raptors for R.J. Barrett. Big move to form what should be a pretty good trio in New York, which will also probably end in sadness, like it normally does for Knicks fans. Now, Charlie, let's do what we've got to do the very first show of 2024. It's time for us to give some predictions that definitely won't go horribly, that we get to look back on next at the end of the year on our season finale.
Let's hope we do better than last year.
Yeah, we did. We had a fun time on our season 2 finale.
Yeah, go check that out if you haven't already.
Yeah, let's start, Charlie. The 2024 elections.
We're starting out with a good one then.
Yeah, presidential election. Who wins the presidency, and who is the other party's major nominee?
All right, I think at this point it's pretty clear, and at least in my opinion, that given when we're recording this, I think it's, unless something drastic happens, it will be Trump and Biden again.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to have faith in the American people, and I'm going to say that Biden will win, because I don't even want to consider the consequences if he doesn't.
Yeah, I'm with you on both counts. I think that once the general election really starts heating up, people will start to really remember what the Trump administration was like and remember why 81 million Americans came out to the polls to vote for Joe Biden and oppose Donald Trump. I think that with the way that how the economy's looking right now and with inflation lowering, Biden, I think things will just get even better for Biden. I think already polling may be underestimating him. Yeah, I'm with you on both counts. Now, Charlie, who wins each chamber of Congress, the Senate and the House, Democrats or Republicans?
All right. Well, hey, I answered this one first. You're going first this time.
All right. Start with the House. I think Republicans have just had too much chaos in the House to keep it. I think Democrats will win the House, flipping the House for the very first time in a presidential election year since 1952. In the Senate, though, I think the map is just too difficult for Democrats. I think that they'll lose. I think that Republicans will regain the Senate, which matters a lot.
Absolutely. Now, let's get to the Trump trials.
Well, hey! You didn't give your predictions.
No. Oh yeah, good point. I didn't. I absolutely agree with your thoughts. I think the Republicans have absolutely removed themselves from any opportunity to win the House. I do think that map very difficult for Democrats. I think the Republicans will take back the Senate, so we will have a split chamber no matter who wins the presidency in 2024.
Yeah.
Now let's get to the Trump trials.
Yeah. Will he be tried this year, Charlie? And will he be convicted this year? Will he get a conviction this year?
I doubt it, considering how slow the legal process is, and considering his team, as we head closer to the election, will be doing everything possible to delay this as much as they possibly can. I don't think we're going to get a result this year.
Yeah, I think that he will face at least one trial this year. I think that the evidence is kind of overwhelming. I think he will be convicted. But I do not expect him to actually start serving a sentence this year. I think that they'll still be going through the appeals process for the next couple of years. That's my take on that one. Charlie, let's move to the Olympics. Which country will win the most gold medals in the Paris 2024 Summer Olympics? It was the U.S. last in the 2021
the United
Olympics
States.
in Tokyo. Yeah,
it's the summer Olympic. It's the U.S. because it's either with all the Olympics, it's either like the U.S. or like Norway.
Yeah, I'm not going to bet against my country. I'm going to go with the U.S. I think that China's right on the U.S.'s heels in the Summer Olympics, but I think they'll have to wait to regain that gain that top spot until 2028 at least. Super Bowl, Charlie. Who wins the Super Bowl?
The Ravens.
Yeah, I think that
Who do they beat?
I think that the Ravens are the very easy pick, and I think they're just so dominant this year, I don't think I can pick against them.
And who are they going to beat?
49ers, probably.
I'm going to go with a little bit of a curveball here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pick Detroit.
Huh, I like that pick.
I'm going to see Detroit and Baltimore. I think it will be very close. I think it will come down to the final drive, and I sneak out with a win.
All right. The World Series, Charlie, we saw something that no one could have possibly seen coming in 2023. But what do you see in your crystal ball this year?
All right, so I can already. This is going to sound really stupid if I'm very wrong here. I don't think it will be the Dodgers.
I think they'll make it, but I don't think they'll win it.
I don't think they'll make it.
Who will?
Let's see. I mean, looking at the National League, you essentially have the Dodgers or the Braves.
Yeah. So you're going with the Braves.
Which is exactly why neither of them will make it.
Sure.
Because I'm taking Arizona.
Again. And are you picking them to win the whole thing?
And I am picking Arizona to win the World Series.
Over?
This is where it gets difficult, because I kind of want to say Texas, but I went with a rematch last year, and it really didn't work.
I mean, it came close, at least.
So I'm going to try it again. Arizona's beaten Texas.
Yeah, I have the Dodgers losing to the Rangers. I think the Rangers are our first back-to-back title winner in a long time. I mean, I think that they're going to get better. I think that their pitching staff, there's at least the possibility that DeGrom or Scherzer are healthy, or even if not for the full season, at least pitch a whole bunch of innings. I think that there's a good chance that their offense, I think some of their players won't maybe regress a little bit, but I think with Evan Carter, I think with Wyatt Langford coming up, I think that their offense could really good as well. I think they're going to have a better bullpen next year. I think that the Rangers will win it all again. I don't think I can bet against the Dodgers going to the World Series because, well, they're as close to a super team as we've had in baseball in a long time. NBA Finals, Charlie. It's not going to be the Warriors. We'll put it that way.
Give me the Oklahoma City Thunder.
All right, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Charlie, you think that they're going to win the NBA Finals?
I think so.
I really do like them.
I mean, I hate the team, but I like the players. I like the squad that they have. Of course, being a Seattle fan, I will always hate Oklahoma City, but I think they really do have this. They're the second seed in the West. They're one game behind Minnesota. I don't trust Minnesota really at all. And then looking at their opponents, I think they can beat. I think when it comes down to it, I think they can beat the Clippers. I think they can beat the Nuggets. I think they can beat any of the random play-in teams.
All right, I'm gonna go.
I think they can beat Boston too. But my other idea is the Detroit Pistons. I'm kidding. I'm taking the Thunder. I'm taking the Thunder.
I was gonna say, wait a minute. I'm gonna take probably the Mavericks in the West. I think that what they actually have could be legit this year. But to win the finals, it's tough. But I think that this is finally going to be the Celtics' year. Stanley Cup Finals, Charlie.
I don't know enough about the hockey stadiums. Let me check.
All right, I'll fill time. I think I picked the Kraken last year, and I'm going to keep picking them till they win. I think.
You know what? I'll just do the same thing because why not?
Go Kraken! All right, in March Madness, Charlie. Let's start on the men's side. It's so unpredictable, but who you got right now?
You watch certainly more basketball than me, so I want to hear your thoughts first.
All right, so Purdue is clearly the best team in the country. No denying that.
Remember what happened last year.
But remember what happened last year, and the year before that, and the year before that, which is why Purdue will once again not win. Now, there's no shortage of good teams, but I'm going to go with Arizona this year. I really think that this is the year that they put it all together and win the title. And on the women's side, Caitlin Clark's a superstar. She always shows up in the big games. I'll take Iowa on the women's side, Charlie.
I agree. Give me Iowa on the women's side. As for the men's side,
you're going to pick Gonzaga again, aren't you?
I'm going to take UConn.
Okay, back-to-back champion. Dan Hurley has definitely done impressive stuff at that program.
Certainly, and I'm not going to pick Gonzaga again, considering they just lost to San Diego State.
Hey, San Diego State was the runner-up last year. That's not a terrible loss.
All right, let's move on.
Final prediction. What happens in the UK local election, or the UK general election next year, or this year? We think it's going to be this year, though it's not official yet. Who wins?
Not the Tories.
Not the Tories? No, I don't think it's going to be the Tories. Can the Labour win an outright majority, though?
It'll be close. It depends on if the right does even more stupid shit like getting rid of the Prime Minister again.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Labour's not very good at winning elections in general. I think that they'll have a plurality, but not a majority. I definitely could see, though, a coalition being formed between them and Liberal Democrats, possibly. So, but I don't think that they'll get an outright majority, and the Tories will definitely lose a lot of seats.
Yeah, they will. And with that, we'll see just at the end of this year just how wrong we probably were.
Well, yes, we were. And to hear that and the rest of our episodes this year, make sure that you subscribe to C&C Talks, because episodes coming out every week wherever you listen to your podcasts. Our website, cctalks.com, has everything you need to know about the show, and you can call us with your questions at 360-389-2630. Again, that's 360-389-2630, and you can follow us on Twitter at CC Talks Podcast. Follow Charlie at CC Talks Charlie. And once again, join our Discord server, cctalks.com/Discord. We'd love to get to chat with you there. All this information is in the description. For our producer Morris and our production designer Zach, I'm Colin.
And I'm Charlie. We'll see you next week.